The massive space station Nexus Prime hung in the void between three star systems like a gleaming metal city. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its countless ports every hour. Today was special. The Galactic Peace Summit brought together the most powerful rulers and diplomats from across known space. Princess Zara of the Kelthani Empire stepped off her royal transport with grace. Her blue-scaled skin caught the station lights, and her golden eyes scanned everything around her. 6 elite guards in black armor followed close behind. Their job was simple: protect the princess at all costs. The Kelthani were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They ruled over 47 worlds and commanded respect from everyone. Princess Zara was next in line to rule this vast empire. At 23 years old, she had already proven herself as a skilled diplomat and warrior. "Your Highness," said Commander Vex, the leader of her guards. "The human delegation arrived 2 hours ago. The trade negotiations begin in 4 hours." Zara nodded but said nothing. She walked through the wide corridors of Nexus Prime. Beings from many different worlds moved around them. There were tall, gray-skinned Valdorians with their 4 arms. Small, furry Pixians chattered in groups. Even some of the mysterious Etherians floated past in their energy suits. The princess had studied all the major races before coming here. Humans were still new to galactic politics. They had only made contact with alien civilizations 50 years ago, yet they had already become important traders and allies. Some called humans weak because they had no natural armor or special abilities. Others said humans were dangerous because they never gave up. Zara had her own reasons to be interested in humans. Though she kept these thoughts private, the group entered the main diplomatic wing. This section of the station was built for important meetings. The walls were made of polished metal that reflected everything like mirrors. Security was tight here. Only the most important people could enter. "Princess Zara," called a voice. A tall Valdorian diplomat approached. "Welcome to Nexus Prime. I am Ambassador Kelm. We look forward to your speech tomorrow." "Thank you, Ambassador," Zara replied with perfect politeness. The Kelthani Empire values this opportunity for peace. They talked for a few minutes about the schedule and various meetings. Zara smiled and said the right words, but part of her mind was elsewhere. Something felt strange about being here. She could not explain why. After the conversation ended, Zara continued walking through the diplomatic section. They passed several conference rooms where smaller meetings were already happening. Through the clear walls, she could see beings from different worlds discussing trade routes and defense agreements. Then she saw something that made her stop walking completely. Through an open doorway, a human man was working on a communications panel. He wore the simple gray uniform of a maintenance contractor. His brown hair was short and neat. His movements were careful and precise as he replaced damaged circuits. Zara stared at the man. Her golden eyes grew wide. Her breathing became faster. "Your Highness?" Commander Vex asked with concern. "Is something wrong?" The man looked up from his work for just a moment. Zara saw his face clearly. He had brown eyes and a small scar on his left cheek. His hands moved with the same steady confidence she remembered from long ago. Suddenly, images flashed through her mind. A crashed ship. Smoke and fire. Pain and fear. Strong hands helping her breathe. A quiet voice telling her everything would be okay. The taste of strange medicine that saved her life. "Princess." Vex stepped closer. "Should we call for medical assistance?" Zara forced herself to stay calm. "No, I am fine. Just tired from the long journey." But she was not fine. Her heart pounded inside her chest. After 15 years, she had found him. The human who had saved her life when she was just a child. The one who had disappeared before she could thank him. The man went back to his work, unaware that royalty was watching him. His name tag read B. Torres, Systems Maintenance. He finished replacing the circuits and tested the communication panel. Everything worked perfectly. Zara watched him pack up his tools. She wanted to run over and speak to him right away. But she was a princess, with guards and duties. She could not just walk up to a maintenance worker in front of everyone. "Your Highness," said another voice. A station official approached with a data pad. "Here is the schedule for tomorrow's meetings." You have a private session with the human delegation at 1400 hours. Zara took the datapad but kept watching the maintenance worker. He was walking away down the corridor, heading toward another section of the station. "Commander Vex," she said quietly, "I want to know everything about the maintenance staff on this station, especially the humans." "Of course, Your Highness." "Any particular reason?" "Security," Zara answered. It was not exactly a lie. "We must be careful about everyone who has access to these areas." Vex nodded and made notes on his personal device. "I will have the information within the hour." As they continued toward their assigned quarters, Zara's mind raced with questions. Was it really him? How did a hero end up working as a maintenance contractor? Why had he never tried to contact her family for a reward? Most importantly, did he remember saving a small alien child on a distant moon 15 years ago? The corridor seemed longer now. Zara walked automatically, responding to greetings and questions from other diplomats. But inside, she was 8 years old again, scared and alone until a stranger with gentle hands had refused to let her die. Tomorrow, she would find a way to speak with B. Torres privately. After 15 years, it was time to learn the truth. Princess Zara lay on the comfortable bed in her assigned quarters aboard Nexus Prime. The room was dark and quiet, but sleep would not come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that maintenance worker's face. B. Torres, the man who might be her mysterious savior from long. Go Commander Vex had delivered the security files an hour earlier. Ben Torres, age 38, former military service, excellent work record, no criminal history. The photo confirmed what she already knew. This was definitely the human she remembered. Zara turned over and stared at the wall. She let her mind drift back 15 years to the worst day of her life. She had been 8 years old then. Traveling with her parents on the royal ship Starlight Crown, the journey was supposed to be simple. They were visiting the outer colonies to sign new trade agreements. Young Zara was excited because this was her first official diplomatic mission. The attack came without warning. 3 unmarked ships appeared from behind an asteroid field. They fired powerful weapons that tore through the royal ship's shields like paper. The captain tried to escape, but the engines were damaged. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the ship. Pirates, her father had said grimly. They want the royal treasury. The Starlight Crown limped toward the nearest world, a small moon called Kepler-4, for to see. It was barely habitable, the thin atmosphere full of dangerous chemicals. No one lived there permanently. Only research teams visited for short periods. The ship crashed hard on the moon's rocky surface. The impact threw Zara against a wall, and everything went black. When she woke up, her head hurt terribly. Smoke filled the air around her. Emergency lights flickered on and off. She called for her parents but heard no answer. Pieces of metal had fallen around her, trapping her legs under heavy debris. The air tasted wrong. It burned her throat and made her cough. Through the broken walls, she could see the moon's gray sky. The atmosphere was slowly leaking into the ship, poisoning everyone inside. Zara tried to move the metal pieces, but she was too small and weak. Fear grew in her chest as she realized she was completely alone. Hours passed. The bad air made her feel sick and dizzy. Her vision became blurry. She was dying slowly, and she knew it. Then she heard footsteps outside the wreckage. Heavy boots, walking carefully through the debris. A male voice spoke in a language she did not recognize at first. Then he switched to common galactic speech. "Hello? Is anyone alive in there?" "Help me," Zara called weakly. "Please help me." The footsteps came closer. A section of twisted metal was carefully moved aside. A face appeared in the opening. It was a young human man with kind brown eyes. He looked shocked to see her. "By the stars," he whispered. "You're just a kid," crawled through the narrow opening to reach her. His clothes were strange. He wore a thick environmental suit that protected him from the toxic air. On his back was a large pack full of scientific equipment. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Zara," she managed to say. "I'm Ben," the human said. "Don't worry, Zara. I'm going to get you out of here." Ben looked at the metal debris trapping her legs. It was too heavy for one person to lift. He opened his pack and took out several small devices. Some looked like medical scanners. Others were tools she did not recognize. "The air is bad," Ben explained as he worked. "It's making you sick. I need to give you clean oxygen first." He pulled out a small mask connected to a tank on his belt. Very carefully, he placed it over Zara's nose and mouth. Immediately, she could breathe easier. The burning feeling in her lungs began to go away. "That's better," Ben said with a smile. "Now let's work on freeing your legs." For the next several hours, Ben used his tools to cut through the metal pieces. He worked slowly and carefully to avoid hurting her. When she got scared, he told her stories about Earth and the strange animals that lived there. His voice was calm and reassuring. On the second day, Ben noticed that Zara was getting sicker, despite the clean air. The moon's atmosphere had already poisoned her blood. Without proper medical treatment, she would die within hours. "I don't have the right medicine," Ben said quietly. "But I have something that might help." He opened a medical kit from his pack. Inside were several injections meant for humans. Ben studied them carefully, then looked at his portable scanner. "Your body chemistry is different from mine," he said. "But these drugs might work if I adjust the doses." For 3 days and nights, Ben stayed with Zara. He gave her modified human medicine to fight the poison in her system. He shared his food and water. When she was too weak to stay awake, he watched over her and made sure she kept breathing. Ben rarely slept. When he did rest, it was only for short periods. He was using his own oxygen supply to keep her alive, which meant his tanks were running low. But he never complained or suggested leaving her behind. On the third day, they heard the sound of engines overhead. Rescue ships had finally found the crash site. Ben quickly gathered his equipment. "Wait," Zara said weakly. "Don't go. I want to thank you properly." Ben smiled and touched her hand gently. "You don't need to thank me, little princess. Just grow up strong and help make the galaxy a better place." "How did you know I was a princess?" she asked. But Ben was already crawling back through the opening in the wreckage. By the time the rescue teams reached Zara, he had completely disappeared. The medical teams found her alive, but very sick. They never found any trace of her mysterious rescuer now. 15 years later, Zara finally had the chance to properly thank the man who had saved her life. The next morning, Princess Zara woke early. She had barely slept, thinking about Ben Torres and how to approach him. She could not simply walk up to him with her guards. That would draw too much attention and might scare him away. During breakfast with her diplomatic team, Zara made an excuse about wanting to inspect the station's security systems personally. Commander Vex offered to arrange an official tour, but Zara insisted on doing it quietly. "I want to see how the station really operates," she said. "Not a formal presentation." After her morning meetings, Zara changed into simpler clothes. She left her royal jewelry in her quarters and tied her hair back in a plain style. To anyone watching, she looked like a junior diplomat rather than a princess. She dismissed most of her guards, keeping only Commander Vex at a distance. Then she began searching the maintenance sections of Nexus Prime. The station was huge, hundreds of levels and thousands of workers. Finding one specific person would not be easy. Zara checked the duty rosters and learned that Ben Torres was assigned to communications, pair in Section 7G. She found him 2 hours later in a quiet corridor, working alone on a damaged relay station. He was focused completely on his task, using precise movements to replace delicate components. Watching him work brought back more memories from that terrible day on. Kepler-44 to C. Zara took a deep breath and walked closer. "Excuse me," she said politely. "Is this area safe to walk through?" Ben looked up from his work. His brown eyes met her golden ones for a moment. Then he stood and wiped his hands on a cloth. "Yes, completely safe," he said. "Just some routine maintenance." "Are you lost?" "The diplomatic sections are on level 12. His voice was deeper now. It was definitely the same gentle tone she remembered. Zara felt her heart beating faster. "Actually, I'm interested in how the station works," she said. "I'm Princess Zara of the Kelthani Empire." Ben's expression changed to surprise, then respect. He straightened his posture. "Your Highness, I apologize for my casual manner. Please don't apologize, Zara said quickly. I prefer honest conversation. What's your name? Ben Torres, Your Highness. Systems Maintenance Contractor. Ben Torresada repeated slowly, as if testing how the name sounded. That's an interesting human name. Have you worked in space long? Ben resumed his work while talking. About 15 years now. I used to do research and exploration before this job. Research, Zara said with growing excitement. What kind of research? Atmospheric studies mostly. I traveled to remote worlds and moons to collect data. Ben paused, then looked at her curiously. Why do you ask, Your Highness? Zara moved closer and pretended to examine the relay station. I'm fascinated by brave people who work in dangerous places. Were you ever in real danger during your research? A few times, Ben admitted. Space exploration can be unpredictable. Zara studied his hands as he worked. They were older now, but she could see the same scars she remembered from 15 years ago. One scar ran across his left knuckle. Another marked his right wrist. These were the hands that had saved her life. I imagine you must have encountered many different species during your travels, she said carefully. Most remote locations are uninhabited. But if you did meet someone in trouble, you would help them, wouldn't you? Ben stopped working and looked directly at her. Something in his expression suggested he was wondering why she was asking such specific questions. Of course, he said simply, Life is precious, no matter what form it takes. Zara's breath caught in her throat. Those were almost the exact words he had spoken to her as a child. Even if helping someone put you in danger? She pressed, especially then Ben replied without hesitation. Zara knew she had to take the risk. Have you ever been to Kepler-4 for to see? The small tool in Ben's hand slipped and clattered to the floor. His face went completely pale. For a long moment, he just stared at her with wide eyes. How do you know that name? He whispered. Because you saved my life there, Zara said softly. 15 years ago. I was 8 years old, trapped in a crashed ship. You stayed with me for 3 days and gave me your oxygen and medicine. Ben sat down heavily on a maintenance crate. He looked at Zara with amazement and growing recognition. The little princess, he said in wonder. You were so small and scared. I thought you might not survive even with help. But I did survive, because of you, Zara said. Tears began forming in her golden eyes. You disappeared before I could thank you. I've been looking for you ever since. I had to leave quickly, Ben explained. I was conducting unauthorized research on that moon. When the rescue ships arrived, I knew there would be questions I couldn't answer without causing diplomatic problems. So you just left? Without claiming any reward or recognition? Ben smiled, the same gentle smile she remembered. I didn't save you for a reward, princess. I saved you because it was the right thing to do. Zara could no longer hold back her emotions. She stepped forward and embraced him. Ben was surprised, but after a moment, he hugged her back. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me the chance to grow up. It's unknown to either of them. Security cameras throughout the station had recorded their conversation. In monitoring rooms across Nexus Prime, various intelligence officers were already analyzing the footage and trying to understand what they had witnessed. Your Highness, came Commander Vex's voice from behind them. He had approached quietly and now looked confused by the scene. Zara and Ben separated, both wiping their eyes. Commander, I want you to meet Ben Torres, Zara said with a bright smile. He's the man who saved my life on Kepler-4 for to see. Commander Vex's eyes widened. Every member of the Royal Guard knew the story of the mysterious hero who had rescued their princess. The Ghost Savior. Vex breathed. He's real. Ben looked uncomfortable with the title. I'm just a maintenance worker now. No, Zara said firmly. You're much more than that. And it's time the galaxy knew the truth. Within hours, word spread throughout Nexus Prime like wildfire. The Kelthani princess had been seen embracing a human maintenance worker. Security footage of their emotional reunion was already being analyzed in intelligence offices across the station, in a darkened conference room on level 15. 3 figures watched the recording for the 5th time. They were all Kelthani, but they wore no royal colors. Their faces showed anger and concern. This is a disaster, said the eldest. a male with silver scales named Lord Thane. The princess has found the ghost savior. We should have eliminated this human years ago, hissed Lady Nyx, her golden eyes flashing with fury. Now he could ruin everything. The third conspirator, General Corax, leaned forward. Our plan to remove the princess during the peace talks is still viable. In fact, this human gives us the perfect scapegoat. Lord Thane nodded slowly. A maintenance worker with access to the entire station. We could make it look like he was an assassin who gained the princess's trust. But what if he interferes? Lady Nyx asked. General Corax smiled coldly. Then we eliminate him too. 2 problems solved with 1 operation. Meanwhile, in the royal quarters, Princess Zara was having a very different conversation. She had invited Ben to join her for a private meal away from the crowds and cameras. Commander Vex stood guard outside while they talked. I still cannot believe you became a maintenance worker, Zara said as they ate. Someone with your skills and courage should be leading expeditions or serving as an advisor to governments. Ben shrugged uncomfortably. I prefer simple work now. After my military service ended, I wanted peace and quiet.
Our military service?
Zara asked with interest. You were a soldier. Marine, Ben corrected. I served for 12 years before switching to research work. That's how I ended up on Kepler 44 to C. What rank did you hold? Lieutenant Colonel, Ben said quietly. I led a special operations unit. Zara stared at him in amazement. You were a senior officer? That explains so much about how you handled the crisis on the moon. Before Ben could respond, Commander Vex entered quickly. His expression was urgent. Your Highness, we have a security concern. Intelligence reports suggest there may be threats against you tonight during the diplomatic dinner. Zara frowned. What kind of threats? We're not certain, but I recommend you skip the dinner and remain in secure quarters. Absolutely not, Zara said firmly. The peace negotiations depend on my presence tonight. I will not hide from unnamed threats. Then I insist on additional security, Vex said. Agreed. But I also want Mr. Torres to attend as my personal guest. Ben looked surprised. Princess, I don't think that's appropriate. I'm not a diplomat. You're my friend, Zara replied. And after 15 years, I'm not letting you disappear again. 3 hours later, the grand ballroom of Nexus Prime was filled with dignitaries from across the galaxy. Beings of dozens of species mingled and discussed trade agreements, defense pacts, and cultural exchanges. The atmosphere was festive and optimistic. Princess Zara wore her finest royal gown, shimmering blue fabric that matched her scales. She moved gracefully through the crowd, greeting ambassadors and discussing important matters. Ben walked beside her in a borrowed formal suit, looking uncomfortable but determined to stay close. Relax, Zara whispered to him. You saved a princess once. You can handle a dinner party. Ben smiled slightly. I'd rather face pirates again. They approached a group of human diplomats near the center of the room. Ambassador Chen, the lead human negotiator, welcomed them warmly. Princess Zara, it's an honor. And you must be the famous Ben Torres we've been hearing about. Famous? Ben asked, confused. News travels fast in diplomatic circles, Ambassador Chen explained. A human hero who saved alien royalty 15 years ago. That's the kind of story that inspires people. Before anyone could respond, the lights in the ballroom suddenly went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. Confused voices rose from the crowd. Stay calm, announced a station security officer. We're experiencing a minor power fluctuation. But Ben's military instincts were already screaming danger. He grabbed Zara's arm and pulled her behind a large pillar. This isn't a power problem, he said quietly. Someone cut the main lines deliberately. How do you know? Zara asked, because backup power should have been instant. The delay means they wanted a few seconds of complete darkness. As if to prove his point, Ben spotted movement in the shadows across the room. 3 figures in dark clothing were moving through the crowd, heading directly toward their location. Commander Vex, Ben called urgently, but when they looked around they realized Vex was nowhere to be seen. He had been standing near the entrance just minutes earlier. The 3 dark figures were getting closer. Ben could see they were Kelthani and they were reaching inside their clothing for weapons. Princess Ben said calmly, "We need to move, now." "What's happening?" Zara asked, but she trusted Ben enough to follow his lead. Ben guided her quickly toward the kitchen entrance, using other guests as cover. Behind them, he heard the distinctive sound of energy weapons being activated. "Down," Ben shouted, pushing Zara to the floor just as energy blasts sizzled through the air where they had been standing. Panic erupted in the ballroom. Guests screamed and ran in all directions. The three assassins pushed through the chaos, determined to reach their target. Ben looked around desperately. He had no weapons and was surrounded by innocent people who could be hurt. But his military training was taking over, and his mind began calculating angles, distances, and possibilities. "Stay low and follow me," he told Zara. Man who had once saved a dying child was about to prove that. Heroes never truly retire. Ben Torres moved through the panicking crowd with the precision of a trained soldier. He kept Princess Zara close behind him, using overturned tables and confused guests as cover. The three assassins were still pursuing them, their energy weapons glowing in the red emergency lighting. "The kitchen," Ben said quietly. "There will be service exits and things I can use." They reached the kitchen doors as the first energy blast scorched the wall beside them. Ben pushed Zara through the entrance and quickly scanned the room. Several kitchen staff were hiding behind metal counters. Too frightened to move? "Everyone stay down and stay quiet," Ben commanded with natural authority. He grabbed a large metal serving tray from a nearby table. It was not much of a shield, but it would have to work. The kitchen had dozens of knives, but Ben knew energy weapons would outrange any blade. The assassins burst through the doors seconds later. Ben was ready for them. He threw the serving tray like a disc at the first attacker. It struck the Kelthani in the face, causing him to stumble backward into his companions. Ben used those precious seconds to grab a pressurized cooking gas canister from under the stove. "You missed your chance 15 years ago," the lead assassin snarled as he raised his weapon. "The princess should have died on that moon." "So this was planned even then," Ben replied, understanding flooding his mind. "You're not random pirates or assassins. You're from her own court." The assassin smiled coldly. "Lord Thane has waited patiently for the right moment. The princess is too soft, too willing to make peace with inferior species like humans." "Inferior?" Ben asked with a grim smile. "Let me show you what this inferior human learned in the Marines." Ben twisted the valve on the gas canister and hurled it at the assassins. As it flew through the air, he grabbed a plasma cooking torch from the counter. The canister struck the floor between the attackers just as Ben ignited the torch and threw it. The explosion was not huge, but it was enough to knock all three assassins off their feet. Their weapons scattered across the floor. Ben moved quickly, using his combat training to disable each attacker with precise strikes. Within 30 seconds, all three were unconscious. Zara called from behind the counter, where she had taken cover. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," Ben said, breathing heavily. "But we need to secure these prisoners and find out how deep this conspiracy goes." Just then, Commander Vex rushed into the kitchen with a squad of royal guards. Ben tensed, ready for another fight. But Vex's expression showed relief rather than aggression. "Your Highness, thank the stars you're safe," Vex said. "We've been searching everywhere. The station's security was compromised." "Commander, where were you?" Zara demanded. "You disappeared right before the attack." "I was pursuing reports of suspicious activity in the lower levels," Vex explained. "It was a deliberate distraction to draw me away from you." Ben studied the three unconscious assassins. "Princess, do you recognize any of them?" Zara looked carefully at their faces. Her expression grew dark with anger. "Yes, they work for Lord Thane, one of my father's advisors. This assassination attempt came from within our own government. The implications hit everyone in the room. If members of the Kelthani court were willing to murder their own princess to prevent peace talks, the conspiracy was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Over the next hour, station security and Kelthani intelligence officers worked together to uncover the full plot. They found evidence that Lord Thane, Lady Nyx, and General Korax had been planning to assassinate Princess Zara and blame human extremists. This would have destroyed the peace, negotiations, and possibly started a war. The attempted assassination and Ben's heroic response were broadcast across the galaxy within hours. News networks on dozens of worlds showed footage of the human maintenance worker who had single-handedly protected alien royalty, using nothing but quick thinking and improvised weapons. 2 days later, Princess Zara stood before the assembled delegates of the Galactic Peace Summit. The main conference hall was packed with representatives from every major civilization. Behind her stood Ben Torres, no longer wearing a maintenance uniform, but dressed in the formal attire of a royal guardian.
Honored delegates,
Zara began, her voice carrying clearly throughout the vast room. Recent events have shown us both the worst and the best of what intelligent beings can become. Some choose hatred and division. Others choose courage and sacrifice. She turned to face Ben. 15 years ago, a human stranger saved my life when I was a dying child. He asked for no reward and sought no recognition. 2 days ago, that same human again risked his life to protect me from those who would destroy our hopes for peace. The hall was completely silent as Zara continued. Today, I announce that Ben Torres is hereby appointed as Knight Guardian of the Kelthani Empire, the first non-Kelthani ever to receive this honor. His actions prove that heroism knows no boundaries of species or origin. Thunderous applause erupted from the assembled delegates. Ben looked overwhelmed by the attention, but he accepted the honor with dignity. Furthermore, Zara said when the applause died down, the Kelthani Empire formally requests that humanity be granted permanent seats on the Galactic Council. Any species capable of producing individuals like Ben Torres deserves full partnership in shaping our common future. The motion passed by an overwhelming majority. Thanks for watching.